2, 1, 0.
Real people, real issues, real life. Talk Recovery Radio. Live from the heart of the downtown east side, it's Talk Recovery Radio with Giuseppe and Darren Gaylor on Vancouver's Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. From the streets to the studio, bringing you addiction recovery stories from real people with lived experience and real experts on today's issues. Tune in live every Thursday, noon to 1. Powered by New West Recovery. Real people, real issues, real life. Talk Recovery Radio.
And welcome to the show, everybody. Good afternoon, Vancouver. This is Giuseppe and I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Darren Gaylor. Hey, Darren.
How's it going? Talk
How's
Recovery.
It going? Yeah, and if you're looking at the screen still, those are all the ways you can replay our shows, on iTunes and Spotify and almost every other restream device out there. So if you want to hear some of our past shows, check it out there on your favorite restream. Darren, Lorinda, Susan, look who we got on the show today. Hello, everybody.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Today, we're talking about Recovery Day, BC, which is happening this Saturday in New Westminster, September 11th, noon to 5 p.m. And we're excited to be able to continue on with the legacy of Recovery Day. We're going to be blunt and honest about it. In a COVID world, every 49 minutes, a Canadian is dying from an overdose. I don't know the numbers right now, but it goes from 6 to 8 people a day dying in pretty much every province, some higher, some lower. That's a lot of people dying. And we all know that, especially here in this Zoom room, recovery is possible. And so that's why we're doing Recovery Day. And so I want to introduce everybody. We've got Lorinda, who is the Vice Chair of Recovery Day BC. We've got Susan, who's on the board and is the Treasurer for Recovery Day BC. And we've got Mr. Darren Gaylor, who is our voluntold MC of Recovery Day for quite a few years since the beginning, really. We've all been there since day one. And so I wanted to start off the show, going down memory lane. Lorinda, you were one of the first people to bring the word Recovery Day, along with others, to the BC recovery world. So Lorinda, why did you do it, and what was it like back then?
We were just sitting around with a few people in recovery, and we watched a movie called The Anonymous People. And it was about breaking down the stigma and that enthusiasm of collectively getting together as a group. What can we do, and how can we show the world what recovery is like for those that don't know or are afraid? And also, there's a stigma that is attached to, or that people feel that even if you're in recovery and you're in long-term recovery or short-term recovery, and you're afraid to tell people that you're in recovery where you work, to your employer, to your friends, even sometimes. And it was a way of just bringing this into normal mainstream life and getting people excited. And then looking at that screen behind you, Giuseppe, is like, we're everywhere, we're everyone, we're from all walks of life, and life is good in recovery. And it was like, we just wanted to enthuse people with that message.
Yeah,
it was in 2012 that we started, and we were talking about it. We knew it couldn't just be treatment centers. We reached out to some other people, but when you look to gather the recovery community as a whole, gathering all the different treatment programs, recovery houses, wherever, is one really good way of getting the numbers, because we're all connected and we all have alumni. And it really brought a sense of community amongst all of us who work together as well, which I think has really shown to be true.
It really did. I remember just only, meeting people like, when I was working in the industry, and we'd go to conferences, and, you know, you'd sort of run into, you know, fellow industry workers, other treatment centers, other resource centers. And I mean, we're all good people, so it was nice, but other than that, we never really knew each other and never really, you know, worked together in any ways. And I remember feeling like there's something missing here, you know, like there was like some sort of natural competition because we worked at different treatment centers, and it was sort of a ridiculous notion, you know. And I love that Recovery Day was sort of like brought into this other outside, you know, scenario where it didn't matter where we came from, what form of recovery, whether it was 12-step or, you know, whatever the program is. And it just brought us together for a common goal. You know, it felt really good to be a part of, as small as it was in the beginning, you know, but everything needs room to grow, right?
The first one was it was a little different. It was at the art gallery in Vancouver, and it was more of a rally, not a protest, but we did march, we did have signs, and we did do that for a couple of years. Right. And then it's evolved into this more of a celebration and more of an exciting feeling of, yes, there's resources there, but it's a way to stay connected with each other. It's, you know, I'm so looking forward to Saturday.
And I was wondering, this question, I guess, is for all of us. Going from something, you know, let's call it grassroots, you know, it doesn't cost a lot of money, you know, whoever can show up sort of thing, you know, speeches and whatnot. Now, Recovery Day BC, we've closed down streets in the city of New Westminster. We have all of the, you know, the resource booths come in and, you know, for the last few years, headlining acts, which now brings only fans of the artist, let's say, you know, people that aren't about recovery, maybe they don't care. They just want to go see the artist. What did we do there? Did we create something better? You know, did we cause a rift? Is it too, you know,
Darren,
open?
You know, you bring a very good point, and I thought about that after Recovery Day when we had Matthew Good, and we had a lot of fans. There was a lot of fans there, but then if you think about the opioid overdose crisis and the pandemic that we're in and the housing crisis, and how many people, like everybody knows, that are touched by mental health and addiction. And so we bring in this crowd of people that may not necessarily be a fan of recovery, but their sister might be, you know, working the streets on the downtown east side. And now they have that message of recovery, and the families and the people that are there, they have that sense of hope. I mean, I think the best part about Recovery Day, if I think about like, why do I do this every day? Like, I'm a sponsor of the event. I'm a volunteer of the event. I show up at 8 o'clock in the morning and I stay till almost the very end every year. I've participated in Recovery Day, regardless if I agreed in what we were doing that year or not, just to be a part of and show support for people. Okay. And, you know, it's a event about us, for us. And there's nothing else like that. Where else can you go to a street festival with live music and a circus and good food and tons of people, like clean and sober addicts partying, which is like, addicts know how to party pretty good, with no alcohol or drugs anywhere, and really no smoking either. So it's like, it's, you know, that's what I like. Why do I do this every year when every year I say I'm not going to? It's for that day and for those reasons. And so I'm glad you shone the light on that. And that's my take on that.
Well, I mean, I have an opinion that, I mean, I've been a part of it, you know, for a while now. And there's something about, you know, whether it's because I'm an addict of sorts, I need to be entertained. I don't want to just show up for 3 hours and just listen to, you know, 40 people talk. You know what I mean? Like it takes something out of me. And I think, you know, from the beginnings of the anonymous people theory of, you know, like, hey, if we're not doing anything, no one knows, no one sees. And why can't we throw a festival and bring in musical acts? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, okay, we're not just drug addicts recovering in church basements. Like, and that's where, you know, this anonymous thing, we're everyone, we're everywhere, we're successful in so many ways, and we can throw a party, we can throw a music festival. And if that, as a, you know, as a side, you know, unplanned thing happens, that it brings more people than we expected, well, exactly. I think that's exactly a point that's needed in this thing. And you touched on that, like how many people are connected to somebody that's going to one day require a resource, a phone number, a name, a place to go.
Well, there was a switch one day. I remember, you know, a man that we all know here, David Pavlis. You know, I was talking to him about how much investment we wanted to put into this. You know, not financially either, like time-wise, and support. And we had this, you know, Recovery Day was coming from that rally point of view and speakers and all that. And he said it really, you know, what click the light for me. It's like, but we have meetings for that. We've got conventions for that. Like, we already do that. We don't need to do that on the streets. Like, we don't need everyone to know what we do to recover personally, because that's what meetings are for. And so you're having, like, is this recovery for people in recovery, or is this, you know, for people that aren't going to meeting? Like, what's the point of this? And I just thought to myself, I'm like, he's so right. Like, I got a home group. I don't need to listen to 20 speakers talk about their personal story. And that was the switch. It's like, yeah, we need to make this an event where everybody wants to be entertained. And the ripple effect is seeing, you know, people in recovery participating. And something happened which I didn't know at the beginning of all this. One of the biggest accomplishments is not this crowd. Like, if people, like, I love that. No, Susan, hold on a second. It's just, think about it. When we first started Recovery Day many years ago, and Lorinda can probably remember this too, it was hard. It was really hard to get 20 service providers to show up in one space. And Darren touched on this a bit ago, competing and all that, in one space for one purpose. It was hard. When we did Recovery Day pre-COVID, there was 100 booths and sold out with a waiting list of people that wanted to have a booth. Yeah. And so to me, that's the biggest accomplishment that we've all done with a ton of volunteers, because we built unity. And that is, you know, so powerful to have all these, from harm reduction, naloxone training, to AA programs, to NA programs, to non-12-step programs, to Buddhist programs, all in one space together for one purpose. Hey, we're here to help. And that to me is a triumph, probably internationally, because I don't know of too many events that have done that. And so a big applause to everybody involved in that, because I mean, you can get a headliner and get 20,000 people to show up, but to get service providers, nonprofits to show up and set up a tent, you know, that took over a decade to happen. So to all of our vendors, I really want to say thank you to all them, because that's a message. Like, we actually, you know, can break down these silos of healthcare that exist between pathways, and that's, you know, what keeps this going. And I hope people know that the goal is to break down those silos of healthcare. Yeah, we can have all these different pathways in one street, and you as a person can decide which pathway you want to choose, and that's the power. So I really wanted to focus on that.
And I really think another thing, you know, you bring up a lot of good points, is it the collaborations between healthcare providers that we've been able to build these alliances, you know, and it wasn't an accident, really. Like, the Recovery Day really kicked off the recovery movement in Canada. You know, like, if you think about it, when the first Recovery Day was 2012, I think, was where it was, and it was relatively small, and nobody was talking about recovery. Like people were arguing about what the word recovery meant. It was still an argument. And if you fast forward now 9 years later, like everybody's united. We don't really care what recovery means to which person and how they want to do it. It's like, if your life is getting better and you want to make some changes, then use the word recovery.
Mm-hmm. I just want to say, in the first year, Darren, in your speech, he said, and it really touched me, he said, we're all here to, we're not against anything. We're here to celebrate recovery. And, every single person, I would challenge anybody out there listening, if you know somebody who's in recovery, who may be struggling, who may be a family member, we work in this field, so we all know people who have passed away. But others, when I'm open about my recovery, the next thing I know, somebody who's on the side of a sports game that I've been going to for a couple of times, next thing you know, they're talking to me, telling me about their kid, their friend, their this, their that, and then we can offer our help to those people. So I think now more than ever, during this pandemic, this message that Recovery Day brings, that people don't have to do this alone, needs to be at the forefront. And if the people that are in recovery that want to celebrate their freedom from addiction, like, we're quite exhausted, the people that are working in this field, it's a great way to get out and feel connected and do what we do in recovery, which is help each other and offer support. So it's just such an exciting day.
I'm so excited.
It's funny you mentioned that, like the what Giuseppe just brought up as being like one of the best things that came out of this. Mm-hmm. And my level of foreshadowing so long ago. Listen, I'm not one to prepare speeches, and I think that's why it worked so well. I remember standing on the steps, mm-hmm. and I was wondering, sort of like, what is this all about, and why am I here? I was sort of having that question of purpose, and I just remember looking around that everything I've ever seen take place at the Vancouver Art Gallery has been a protest, right? An anti fill in the blank. Yeah. And it just dawned on me on the steps before I spoke, like, that we're not protesting anything. That this is something that, like, I at the time I was sort of respectful to, people not wanting to break their anonymity and having the right to sort of like not, come out and show yourself. I mean, I had a big respect for that. And I remember being brand new and how much sort of, privacy and shame I needed to have the right to in the beginning. Yeah. And this is where, you inspired me, Lorinda, because you were clean long before I ever was. And I saw, like, from what I had only known as a professional, a director of a treatment center who you never really know their story. You just think they're running a business, and to see you in and amongst the people, like, but it knocked away some of that stigma, because up to that point, I had been a client in treatment centers, even at the Orchard. And it was like everybody I'd met in a nice shirt, sitting across from me, counseling me, therapizing me, like whatever the situation was, you never heard about these people's lives a whole lot. You never saw them outside, and it broke that client professional thing to just, we're all just people, and the amount of respect given, and it fueled my break into more of a public thing. And again, there are some people that choose, rightfully so, to sort of remain a bit private. But if you look behind Giuseppe, there's so many of us that needed that out in and amongst other people. And I'm so happy for the amount of people that showed up in that same, like, that same stance, you know, and it's been something I look forward to every single year, you know, that we're just sort of ambassadors of, you know, we know it's shameful in the beginning, but if you keep going, you'll get to a point where it's just like,
it's just part of life.
You're the go-to person for other people.
Yeah.
That will, you know, because you shared your story a little bit, they'll reach out to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really good point. You know, it's like that, you know, that was, I can remember, I know that exact moment you're talking about, standing on the steps with your arms. It was just like an iconic moment where, you know, the stigma came down for me. And it's like, I'm not ashamed of who I am and how I got to where I got. If I, you know, like if I have regret, like I can work through it. But it's like, you know, I often think, thank God I went through what I've gone through so that I can do what I do.
Well, and let's talk this, because that's what ultimately it means. Now I'm evidence of what recovery is, rather than just, you know, the shameful outcome of getting clean, you know, the immediate sort of, you know, emotional process after, you know, recently getting clean, right? It's past that. If you get past that and stay the course, you become evidence to a new life, a new outlook, a new perspective, you know, a whole new stigma, if you will, on what recovery and addiction is and has done for us. So Susan, talk to us about what is this? What is?
I wish I had my shirt. You know, when I saw you with it, was like, darn, I forgot I was doing this today, or I would have put it on. I have a you know, like 6 or 7 now, because we've done so many evidence booths, and you know, we wanted to engage with the people that participated in Recovery Day and kind of get some type of evidence and find out what people want and what people see and how they're feeling about, you know, healthcare in this country, and how hard was it for them to get to treatment, and how were they paid for treatment, and where did they come from. And you know, over the course of 4 years, we surveyed 6,000 people. We've got some really good evidence that, you know, we share with people who want to give us grants to keep this momentum going. And you know, I was just looking at some of the information, and if I think about the attendees to Recovery Day that we tracked as a result of the evidence campaign, you know, over 10% of them are people that come from outside the Lower Mainland. And I think that is a really big piece of information to have, because it's not just about people in New West or Vancouver or Surrey. It's about people in British Columbia, and people have traveled for this day to celebrate recovery with us. The evidence campaign is excellent for the community. And I'll tell you, you know, get your evidence shirt this weekend. We're going to be having them down there. And hopefully we can get a big, huge picture with everybody in evidence shirts wearing an evidence mask.
And that's 6,000 people that have given us statistics at this point has been over what, 3 years?
4 years.
4 years.
4 years. Yeah.
And so, like, I mean, the importance of that, of Recovery Day being the place to come, to put in that information, to sign up. Yeah, get your shirt for sure. But that information, like, that's huge to track, like, and provide numbers, because up to this point, we've had no statistics.
So, well, there is a survey was done by the CCSA. Oh, they did a life and recovery survey, which was one of the first surveys really in Canada that actually asked questions of the people in the recovery community. So this inspired our evidence booth as well. There's a lot of research being done on people who use drugs. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole, but a lot of that research is funded by Big Pharma to find out how we can medicalize, you know, addiction and offer, you know, medication, which, you know, is a conversation for another show. But it's interesting that they're not funding how people can, you know, drug reduction and not use drugs and so forth. So it's people like us, people like Susan, who's really inspired the evidence booth, like just grassroots, like, hey, people that are clean and sober, like, how did you do it, and what's your story? Because no big pharma ain't asking, because they're not interested in how you stopped using drugs.
So, they definitely are not.
Trust us, they're not. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. They're just not interested. How can we maintain you using drugs? We're really interested in that because we care about you, not our bottom line. So like these people actually exist. Like I've been to conferences where people actually with PhDs and doctors in front of their names and research scientists actually say recovery doesn't work and recovery is not a solution to the overdose crisis. So there is a bit of a rally going on in this, because we need to remind people, yeah, we do exist, and there's power in numbers, and there's power in our voices, and our voices do matter. And you know what? I'd like certain people to go on that stage, okay, like we'll call her out, Dr. Patricia Daly, like go on this stage and tell people what you said at, the municipal conference where all the mayors and police chiefs of the entire province were at. She said word for word, opiate addicts can't recover and need to be on medication for the rest of their lives. She hasn't accepted the invitation. She won't go on this stage and say that. But like that, there's a reason why we do this. It's just like, yeah, they do recover. And there's 4 of us here, like we do recover, without getting into our personal stories. So yeah, that's important. And we can't just, it's not just about clowns and face painting and music. It's about, I have the freedom to have a right to recover from addiction my way. And if that's harm reduction and safe supply, then let's go down that road. But if I want to get abstinent, I should be supported in that in every way. And, because of this and because of you 3, we've been able to put a dent in some of BC's mandate to ensure that medication is the first response and only response to addiction in this province. And we're really happy that the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, Sheila Malcolmson, has not given up on us. And she'll be at the Recovery Day event this year. And
Sheila.
Yeah, so you know what? We didn't get as much financial support as we wanted this year, but we got some, and you know what? Well, hopefully that will go up after she gets inspired from being at that event, and know that this actually does save lives. So we only got a few minutes left here, so I really want to get out there. There's, it's kind of like the Pride movement. What is Pride? What is Pride Day? Why do Pride Day? How do we do Pride Day? Hey, we're just a little small town. We don't know how to do this. And so I want people that are listening to this, I want to be able to share this video with small town people in recovery that kind of are wishing they had something like this and don't know how. And, what can other cities do to get here? Any tips out there? Susan, Lorinda, Darren, somebody's listening.
One of the big things I say, the biggest tip is to get loud and get proud. It's like get start talking about your recovery with people. And when people start talking about recovery, you'll be surprised. It becomes this snowball effect where everybody starts coming forward and talking about it. Happens all the time with me. Soon as I come out when I'm in a public area and talk about recovery, it happened to me at school. Last night, I got a call from one of the students that lives in Toronto coming to Vancouver. Hey, I heard you're in recovery. You talk about it in school all the time. Can we have a coffee? I'm in recovery too. So it's like, just talk about it.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of people that through their workplace or wherever, or their families, for some reason, I find that one hard, that they don't feel comfortable that they can share that openly, that they're in recovery. And I think so for those of us that can share about our recovery, I feel like it's my duty to do so, because I can, and I'm proud of the fact that I'm in recovery. The longer you're in recovery, the easier it is to share, because the shame of the past is so far behind you. But the more of us that come out that can, and are proud about it and celebrate it and show that we come from all walks of life, it helps the other person. And if you're setting something up in your new community, I mean, I think the first thing you need to do is get together with the other people that work in this industry in your community, if you have that, and rally them around, because you have to be able to get the vendors out. And every year at Recovery Day, I go around. I've been in this business now for, almost 20 years. I've been in recovery for 30 years. I'm in the know, and I go around to all those booths, and every year I make a connection, I meet somebody, I pick up some pamphlets and I bring them back and I share those resources with other people. And so there's the twofold, there's that information and learning, and there's the freedom, the feeling of freedom. It's freedom from addiction, it's freedom from holding any secrets. When you are ready to do that, you will feel freer.
Yeah, I would have to say, to start something like this, even though I feel like I'm more of a participant, but I just know how important it was to have people with experience, with the lived experience and traction in their lives. I mean, you can't get something going like this from people fresh out of a treatment center, like a small group of people. It's just like anything, like beginning anything, you need the experience, and you need the people, the professionals, the like I said, the people with traction that may be thinking, oh, like my life's too busy. You need some commitment from a couple of those people to to really help out. Like, I don't think this could be run by brand new people. And I especially, truly believe that even though hearts are in the right place, there's just an insecurity, a vulnerability to people too new, that they need the support of those with long-term recovery. And that might sound arrogant, but I know what I'm talking about, being somebody with 6 months clean, 9 months clean, 1 year clean, and how much I didn't really know the decisions I were making when I was out there, and it felt risky and uncomfortable sometimes, for me. Like, it took a lot of years to feel comfortable in public and speaking up about my recovery, and it'd been years I'd been trying to get to that spot, right? So I understand that, more than ever right now, and so when I see, people that are there, and I can see the hesitancy, I can see the awkwardness, and that is just natural and normal. But if we keep providing ourselves, the commitment to be a part of these things, then it's never going to go wrong. Right.
Well, when we get clean and sober, there was a very common pattern. We become anonymous and we disappear, and that's really shows the success of recovery. Is we are no longer in the healthcare system, and we move on. We get jobs, exactly. We get wives, we get kids, we get husbands, whatever your cup of tea is, and you move on, and you're no longer. So this is a call out to all those people with a decade clean, 20 years clean, 30 years clean and sober, 15 years, a person living in long-term recovery, whatever your label is. Come on down to Recovery Day, show the world recovery is possible, and we need your voices more than ever these days. Recovery Day is happening this Saturday, September 11th. It's in the city of New West. COVID, yes, it's out there. We're following public provincial health policy guidelines. We can have an event outdoors. Masks aren't mandatory, but we are suggesting that you wear a face covering and just to show that we're not just want to be an anti whatever. It's just wear a mask and try to social distance where you can. We want to have a safe, successful event. We want to make sure that we lead by example, and we also want to reduce the risk of COVID spread. So try to do your best. There'll be 3 sanitizing stations throughout the site where you could sanitize your hands and so forth. Please bring your own mask. We can't afford to give everyone a mask. If you do forget, we have some on site, but please try to bring your own because we can't afford to give everyone one. Unless you want to sponsor masks, you can drop them off. Always looking for sponsors. So we really want to see you there. We've got 3 stages. We have a circus stage. We have a live main stage. We've got a Belmont Street stage. So there's music for everyone, music you know, music you love, and lots of entertainment. We have 60 information booths and vendors, food trucks, and something really exciting this year at 3 p.m. We'll be having a raffle for a $500 Amazon gift card. Yeah, so all you got to do is visit all the different booths and ask them who they are first, and then ask them for a ticket for the raffle, and you can enter as many times as you wish, 1 ticket per booth though, hopefully. And then we'll draw that at 3 o'clock from the main stage, and we'll have some speeches at 3 o'clock just to say hi to the crowd. You can check it out, recoverydaybc.ca. If you want to support Recovery Day financially, send us an email and we could sure use the support. The event's not free. It costs money to close streets down and set everything up. So any help is loved. And you can go to the info booth also and get yourself an evidence t-shirt and make a donation if you wish as well. So let's leave on a final note. Susan, Lorinda, Darren, as people in recovery, being at Recovery Day, like how does it inspire you or help you in your personal recovery journey?
For me, I feel like Recovery Day is almost like Christmas. You look forward to it all year long because you're going to have gifts to take away with you at the end of the day.
Aw, that's beautiful.
I have been overworked and stressed working in the pandemic, and I have grown to consider everyone that's on this committee, but like so many more, like my good friends. And we have been isolated and we haven't been seeing each other as much in the different communities. And, for me in my recovery, getting out there and it fills me back up again. It fills me up with gratitude. It makes me remember why I do what I do for my own personal recovery. It makes me just feel, proud of myself for what I've accomplished and what I'm doing. And those are good feelings. And I think we all need some good feelings right now. And Recovery Day, I'm really looking forward to it. And Darren touched on when you're starting a Recovery Day and being able to, when people get too busy and do that, the same goes for this organization. And, some of us have been a little bit too busy this year. And that's why, you have to reach out and you have to support each other. And sometimes other people lift you up when you can't do it. And Recovery Day does that, and our team does that. And thank you, Giuseppe, even though you said not to say that. So anyway, yes.
I mean, it's so hard to convince myself or convince others that I would be there dancing, even if I wasn't voluntold to become MC. But you know what? I tried to get clean so many times. And this was a big obstacle for me, being anywhere public and not knowing who I was and how to express myself and what to be proud of and what to be ashamed of and when this was all going to go away. And I will forever, whether told, paid, I will show up at any chance, any opportunity I can, to know that there's also somebody there wondering and waiting and just needs to see the experience of other people living a normal life and are busy and could be doing other things, but that make that a priority still 20, 30 years later. That makes me feel so proud, and it reinforces everything I've ever done to get to where I'm at.
Just showing up as being of service.
Exactly. That's Recovery Day coming to you this Saturday, noon till 5, New West, Uptown, New West. Bring your mask. Try to social distance where you can, and come have some fun. If you're in recovery, if you're a recovery ally, if you have a loved one still using, you come meet the information booths, get some information on the services available in BC to get well. If you're listening and you're not from here and you're wondering what is going on here, what is this? Give us a call, give us an email, Recovery Day BC, and say, hey, I'd like to learn how to create a Recovery Day committee in our town. And we're more than happy to share knowledge with you and how we did it. And hopefully Recovery Days continue on in cities across the country, and not just here, but around the world. So Susan, Darren, Lorinda, thank you for everything you guys have done. To all of our volunteers helping this weekend, thank you. Big shout out to you. And our sponsors. And all of our sponsors. Yes, all of our sponsors. And you know what?
I just can't wait for the circus.
Yeah, that's going to be.
So excited.
Finally.
Finally, yeah.
A circus that is not the one of our lives.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for having me on the show today.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Catch you next Thursday. Thanks for listening to Talk Recovery Radio, brought to you by New West Recovery. And you can listen to us live on 100.5 FM, CFRO, Vancouver Co-op Radio. Thank you, Vancouver Co-op Radio, for giving us time to talk about recovery. Take care. See you next Thursday, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
See you Saturday.
Bye. See you Saturday.
Recovery Day. Woo!